So no transition. We have now an interesting speaker. I'm not sure you're all familiar with his company called trnd for the real network dialogue. He's coming from Berlin. trnd is a German company, and their specialty is word of mouth and word of mouth marketing. And he will explain us what are the myths and realities around word of mouth. Please help me welcome Martin Oetting.
Yes, why do we speak about word of mouth? Well, we've known for decades that word of mouth is the most powerful medium of advertising that exists. And in the past 5 to 7 years, it's taken on completely new dimensions on the web. What used to be local around your dinner table can now all of a sudden go global within minutes, and particularly in its negative form, can have disastrous consequences for your brand and marketing. Negative viral word of mouth going around the globe is a danger that brands need to deal with, that they need to be equipped for.
Excuse me, but that is total bullshit.
What?
Wow. Who are all these people?
What are you doing here? I'm giving a speech. These are internet people. You're interrupting me.
Ah, d'accord. Go on, go on. I will listen.
Okay, so my story is about negative viral word of mouth, which is a danger for brands and companies that they need to deal with, and that has become a threat for brands and corporations. If you imagine that millions of consumers kick up this negative global firestorm against your brand, this is something that you need to deal with. It's something that you need to protect against, and I want to talk about how to deal with this threat today.
Excuse me, monsieur, but that is still total bullshit. You don't know what you're talking about.
What are you saying? Why is that bullshit?
Because that hardly ever happens.
What hardly ever happens?
That millions of consumers really make a global firestorm against a brand.
What? But it's constantly on the news. There's constant outrage against brands online. It's all the time.
The news that you're talking about is the news of the internet nerd people.
Who? What?
Well, all the funny people here. But I tell you, the chance that a brand get a global firestorm is still tiny. It is only a reason for consultant people to scare companies and to make money. Often it has nothing to do with the reality of consumers.
Well, then let's talk about United Breaks Guitars, right? There was this musician, he was on a United Airlines flight. He saw that they broke his guitar. He wanted compensation for it. The company wouldn't pay it, so he wrote the song. He put it on YouTube. It totally went viral. It was, seen by millions and millions of consumers. That's what's happening.
Ah, yes, very good example. I saw the film too. And you know what? I thought it was really funny.
Well, see, so even you saw it here in France online.
Yes, and 4 weeks later, I want to find a flight. I go to the internet and look for flights. Guess what? United Airlines was best offer.
Well?
The cheapest flight. Do you think I don't book the flight because of the funny guy whining about the guitar? Mais no! Of course I book the flight. I did not care about guy with guitar. Why did I not care about guy with guitar?
Well, why?
I have no guitar. There is a difference between a fun PR story and what real people actually do when they spend money. It's not the same thing.
But still, I mean, this type of story is just so disastrous for the reputation of a company.
Well, how many stories like United Break Guitars are there? Particularly in Europe, with all the languages. Compared to the millions of companies and brands that exist, virtually none. It is not the danger that all the internet people talk about. But that is beside the point anyways.
What are you saying? Why is that besides the point?
Because you make it look like consumers are scary and want to hurt brands and are dangerous. But that is not true. It's just to make people afraid. People always want to share great stories. People want to spread positive word of mouth.
But haven't you heard? Consumers tell a good story to 3 people and a bad one to 10. And when the social web came up, Pete Blackshaw wrote the book that says consumers tell a good story to 3 people and a bad one to 10,000 online. That is what's happening on the web today.
No, that is not what is happening. That is also often bullshit. Imagine you have 2 people, d'accord?
Okay.
One people tells you from morning till night about the bad things that happened to him. His car broke down, his cell phone is shitty, his last holiday was a disaster, he went to a bad restaurant the other night, and so on.
Okay, and the other guy?
The other people tell you only great stuff. He loves his phone, and his car is wonderful, and he just discovered a really cool restaurant, and he just bought a really funky new chewing gum. So what do you think of these 2 people?
I mean, the second guy is pretty cool, and the first one is just unlucky most of the time.
Mais non! You think that the first guy is an idiot. He is dumb. He constantly makes bad buying decisions. And he is stupid. Also, he always makes a bad mood with his negative stories.
Well, I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe marketing is just so obsessed with negative word of mouth because it sees it as a danger. But it's true. We as consumers want to share positive stories. We want to tell people when we found good stuff. We want to rave about things. And we want to show others how cool we are, I guess.
Exactly. People want to show how cool they are. Only when something really bad happens, they need to tell others. To relieve the tension of the bad experience, to deal and cope with it. But most of the time, we want to show others how cool we are.
Okay, so to summarize, you're saying online word of mouth is not as dangerous as people think it is, and consumers want to share positive word of mouth more than negative most of the time, right?
Exactly. I could have not said this better myself.
Okay, then I can maybe continue with my speech and talk about the positive side of things. If consumers want to share positive word of mouth, if they want to relate these stories, then brands and marketing need to get together. The creatives need to develop this amazing brand storytelling where brands can live online in ways that, you know, people will be delighted, where they can take these brand narratives and forward them virally around the globe and make them go, you know, well, what's wrong with that?
Man, I'm sorry, but that is bullshit again.
Okay, well, why? What are you talking about?
Okay. You want great word of mouth for your brand, yes?
Yes, and since you seem to be Mr. Know-it-all, why don't you tell us how that works?
There are only 2 possibilities for word of mouth. One, you have a shitty product. Then you invest all the wonderful money in brand narratives, you are not going to get any positive word of mouth.
Okay, or
you have a good product. Then your brand creative storytelling stuff is not going to help much either. There is only one thing that you can do to get more word of mouth.
And that one thing is?
You have to understand whom to put on stage.
Whom to put on stage? What are you talking about?
Imagine advertising is something like a show, like a rock concert. As a traditional advertising man, like Don Draper, you want to put the brand on stage. You turn on the lights and the fog machine, you make the good sound, and you make the band look like a real cool superstar. That is what advertising people do.
Okay.
But when you want to get word of mouth, the brand is not on the stage.
What are you talking about? The consumers are talking about the brand, and that way they're lifting it up on the stage, right?
Du n'importe quoi. The consumers are not talking about the brand. They are talking about the one thing that all people in the world are most interested in.
If consumers are not talking about the brand, what are they talking about?
They are talking about themselves.
About themselves?
When people talk about products, it only gives them a chance to talk about themselves. It's an excuse for them to put themselves on stage. Why do people love Facebook? Because it's a stage that they're on where they can make themselves look great. Why do people love Apple products? Because when they are using such a product, it makes you feel like you're standing on a really cool stage. You look cool.
So you're saying the consumers themselves want to be on stage?
But of course, that is why brands need to stop hunting for Facebook likes. For real word of mouth, it is irrelevant how many Facebook likes you have. Something else on Facebook would be much more useful.
And what is that? Something else?
Brands should stop wanting to be liked by people. Instead, they should start liking people.
Okay.
Imagine you wake up one day and your favorite brand liked you on Facebook. How cool would that be?
Indeed.
Brands should begin showing their consumers how cool the consumers are. That is when they put people on stage, and that is how they get word of mouth.
But that is really very different from the way marketing used to be.
Absolutely. Well, you keep talking to your internet people friends. I need to go on Facebook and post how awesome I am.
Well, thank you very much. I think now I'm supposed to speak with Cedric, if he's coming.
Sorry, I wasn't sure when you will be. I mean, it's the first time I see such a presentation. It's
an experiment.
Yeah, it's an experiment, but and not only the format, of course, but the content, like message you gave, were very, very interesting, and I learned a lot. I hope you guys learned a lot. So a few questions. I don't know where to start. A few words about trnd quickly.
Okay, trnd is a company that provides word-of-mouth marketing solutions in 15 markets around the world. We're right now in South America and in Europe, and we basically provide either our own platforms to run word-of-mouth campaigns, or we run our campaigns on platforms that we build for our clients into their CRM system. So we have those two opportunities, and we work mainly with fast-moving consumer goods companies such as Procter & Gamble. We work with, basically all of them. Henkel, Unilever we've worked with, depending on the market. So, yeah.
Big companies. Usually, when you say nowadays, when you say word of mouth to someone, as you've explained, very often they will understand online buzz. So word of mouth online. Do they tend to forget real offline word of mouth? And how can you help them work with this kind of word of mouth that is, I think, 90% is offline?
Yeah, this is a great question. Of course, when you're at an online event such as this one, there is a lot of focus on sharing online, a lot of stuff that people post on their Facebook pages, etc. But the key thing is really that consumers still spend the vast part of their time talking to their peers, the people around them, offline in real-world conversations. And your number is right. The one that you quoted is from the Keller Fay research in the US that says that 90% of word of mouth happens offline, 10% happens online, still today. And we find the exact same numbers in our campaigns because we can observe where people are sharing. They report to us about their activities, and we consistently have around 10 or even below 10% of online word of mouth and 90% of offline word of mouth. So I would argue that many brands should not forget about the offline word of mouth that is going on. And I would even say, you know, something like Facebook really became mainstream when people not only emailed about it or posted on Facebook, but when they started talking about it at the dinner table or, you know, in the cafeteria at work. So offline word of mouth is really powerful.
And so, last question: what's next? I mean, your job is to research on word of mouth and word of mouth marketing. Give us a few ideas of the future of word of mouth.
Right. I think in our work we see that we can provide the interface for collaborating with your consumers. Word of mouth campaigns currently work like following, you know, you provide people with the product, they test it, and you work with them, you engage them, you motivate them, you have a dialogue with them, so they share it and provide feedback. But it's all about the sharing. In the future, we will see consumers developing products, fine-tuning, packaging, advertising, all aspects of the marketing mix in a collaborative system with the brands that they love. And I think providing the infrastructure for that, that's kind of where we're headed, making sure that motivated, engaged consumers really love to work with the brands that they use every day and can work with them to build new products. I think that's where the future lies.
Thank you, Martin. And thank you again for such a wonderful presentation.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.